Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be bringing you my spoiler-free review of the Windfall by Diksha Basu. Now, this book I received in my July Book of the Month box, and it is an adult contemporary / comedy that follows our main characters, the Jha family, Mr. and Mrs. Jha, and their son Rupak, as Mr. Jha kind of acquires this large fortune after selling his website. So he's kind of like an online entrepreneur / web developer, and he ends up selling his website to a company in the United States and become kind of millionaires overnight. And it's them dealing with like their new riches and moving to kind of like the rich part of town. It does take place in India, so it is definitely considered to be a diverse read, and I really ended up enjoying this one. You have, like I said, our main characters, Mr. and Mrs. Jha, as they acquire this new large fortune and they decide to kind of move away from their home that they've been living in for the past, I believe it's like 25 years or so, ever since they got married. And they move away from like their somewhat middle to lower class area to live in like the very high, fancy upper class area. Mr. Jha wants to kind of, splurge and now live lavishly because he feels like he now has that ability to live lavishly. So Mrs. Jha isn't really like too excited about the idea. Rupak, their son, is living in the United States because he's studying business, and it kind of like hops back and forth between everything that's happening in India with Mr. and Mrs. Jha and then in the United States with Rupak and his schooling and everything. Now you have Rupak in the United States who, like I said, is studying business and everything and is falling in love with an American woman, and he believes that his family, because they're so traditionally Indian, is trying to set them up in an arranged marriage, and he doesn't think that his family is going to end up approving of him dating and falling in love with an American woman. So he has kind of that issue with this new girl that he's dating and that he's falling in love with, and him not actually really wanting to study business because he wants to study film more, and it's kind of frowned upon in their culture to study things that aren't kind of like a realistic type job. So he has all of these issues dealing on and going on with him and his school and his love life, and then Mr. and Mrs. Jha kind of getting accustomed to this new life that they've set in motion for themselves, and it is just absolutely hilarious and beautifully told. Mr. and Mrs. Jha kind of get themselves into trouble going into this new kind of higher level of living, and they meet their new neighbors, and a lot of kind of hijinks begin to kind of ensue between Mr. Jha and the neighbor, kind of trying to show off who has more money and that kind of thing. But it's done in a very comedic way, and then in the end things kind of just like end up turning out really well in the end for them, and I just really enjoyed how all of this stuff played out. Now, when it comes to the writing, it's kind of that simplistic writing that I really enjoy. It's not overly beautiful or poetic, that, overly descriptive kind of stuff. It is a very quick read. It is witty and humorous, and very subtle humor. It's not kind of that dumb humor that kind of bashes you over the head. It's very subtle and very cute, and something that I personally was able to kind of really relate to, because it deals with a lot of themes of like culture shock and getting used to like these new things that the Jha family really isn't used to, with like this new kind of fortune that they've acquired. And I thought it was just hilarious. A lot of times I kind of saw myself imagining my own family going through these kinds of things and making the mistakes that they were making, going out to like these fancy plays and these fancy restaurants and not really knowing what to do because they're not used to being within this kind of social circle. And I thought it was hilarious. Mr. and Mrs. Jha eventually end up visiting their son Rupak in the United States for the first time, and that culture shock that they go through going through the United States for the first time and everything is something that I also felt was relatable to me and my family, and stories that I've heard from like my in-laws and stuff from the first time that they came to the United States, and the things that kind of they said and did, not knowing what was going on and what was happening around them because they're not used to this kind of culture. And I just thought it was so relatable, even though it's a different kind of culture, but it was very relatable, their situations and the things that they were going through. As far as the characters go, the main characters in this are just like great main characters. I loved absolutely every single one of these characters, and all the side characters and their stories I really enjoyed too. There's a little side story of one of Mr. and Mrs. Jha's old neighbors and close friends that lived in the apartment complex that they lived in before they moved to like the higher society area, and it follows her story. She's a widow, and it's her kind of falling in love again after being widowed for so long and accepting the fact that she is allowed to fall in love again and is allowed to get married again, even though she's in this culture of, you know, she's now widowed and things are frowned upon. And I really enjoyed these side stories that was going on with them. I enjoyed all of the side characters and everybody that was living within Mr. and Mrs. Jobs' old apartment complex, and all of kind of like the nosy neighbors and the little nitpicking and stuff. I just thought it was hilarious and wonderful, and every single one of these characters were characters that I loved reading about. I loved every single perspective and every single storyline that was going on within this, and it was funny, it was just so heartfelt. Like, in the end, I feel like the perfect way for me to describe this book is kind of like your favorite comfort food, or like a warm cup of coffee, like something that's going to warm you up inside, that's going to make you smile, that's going to make you feel good. This is definitely one of those kind of really good feel-good books, and a story that's really going to connect, I feel like, with a lot of people. It's just beautifully told. It was hilarious, and I absolutely ended up loving this book from beginning to end. And if you guys can't tell already, I ended up giving The Windfall by Diksha Basu a 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, guys, that is it for my spoiler-free review of The Windfall. Comment down below and let me know if you guys have read this book, or if you guys are planning on reading this book, and what your thoughts and everything are on them. I would love to talk to you guys about it in the comments. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.